Hello and welcome back to Hindsight is 50/50. I'm the host J-Rod with my co-host the ORG old retired guy. Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing pretty good. It's, I'm colder now.
Well, especially where you're recording, man. You picked like the coldest, darkest room, you little psycho.
Yeah, but it's like, it's also the most, other than the background furnace noise, it's the most quiet. It's just handy. It's just handy down here to keep, so I can leave stuff set up and keep it out of the way. But yeah, as I love those progressive commercials where they talk about young people turning into their parents.
Yes.
And obviously this is a parent thing. Well, I can't help it. I am, and I'm old. I do talk about the weather. I do. And man, I get cold easier than I used to.
I think it progresses, like, as you turn into a parent, it starts to become topic of conversation because it's something you worry about, but as you turn into a grandparent, it is the topic of conversation.
Yeah, I can't help it. I mean,
I completely agree, and it's not like it's just you. Since I was a kid, it's like you always had to make sure the house was a little bit warm when grandparents were going to be there, just because it's like they get cold so easy.
And I remember my dad, and my mom now. My mom's 88. Grandma Sawyer's 88, and she worries about the weather. I mean, and she, dude, she gets her weather from the newspaper. So you know how accurate that is.
Oh yeah,
not very for a
real up to date too. I mean, from print to actual.
Yeah,
ingesting
not very accurate. But anyway.
Well, I gotta imagine all the blood thinners make it worse too as you get older.
I'm sure
a lot of people are on blood thinners, so it's like that has to make you cold and make the winter even more miserable.
Well, I'm not, but I have had a couple of heart things, and I don't know if that has anything to do with it or it's just aging. But whatever it is, it's like, God dang, man. When I get cold, I'm cold all day. I can't warm up.
See, mine is like if you drew a 6-inch circle around the exact center of my sternum.
Yeah.
If that gets cold, I'm fucked. Like I am miserably cold and I will get shaky to where I feel like I'm sick from the flu. But if that doesn't get cold, I'm usually okay. Like, yeah, my fingers get cold, my toes get cold type thing, but like I can get through it. But if that little center, that small spot, I could have half my chest cold and I'm okay. But if that small spot in the center gets cold, I'm cooked. It's done.
I'm the same way, only it's my back.
Okay.
If I get cold in the center of my back, I'm cold all day. All day. And it's just like there's no getting warm. I can layered clothes, I can sit on a heat pad. I am cold all day.
I end up like spooning one of the dogs and holding them into my chest just to try and stay
warm. Well, that's
warm.
A good thing. Well, and I mean, one of the biggest reasons I get cold is that, like, when it's like this, like I see one day next week, 2 days next week they're predicting highs in the single digits, like 5 and 8. Well, I take Samson for a walk every other day, and I mean, I try to take him on the same walk because he needs the exercise and so do I. But man, it gets cold, man, when you're out.
Yeah, I gotta imagine that sucks.
God, that's
and you
cold.
gotta be careful too, slipping and all that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, it's just another one of those
That's
things.
the other thing about getting older is it's like you don't even. I know everyone worries about old people falling down and shit, but it's like I don't even worry about fall. I know I'm not an old person, but I don't even worry about falling down. It's like I probably won't fall. The problem is I'll slip, catch myself, and fucking throw out my back.
Well, I got this.
It's like, oh no, this is way worse.
I got this alert last night because I always carry my phone so it counts my steps. And I got this alert last night. I'm trying to tell you. I want to make sure I get walking steadiness notification. I have low walking steadiness.
Wow.
I may be at risk, an increased risk of falling for the next 12 months if I don't straighten out.
Can you send them a message back and be like, "Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down"? I mean, but
Well,
that is that considering your knee and the fake hips,
yeah.
it's like, yeah, there's a waddle to your gait, so I'm sure your phone thinks that you're, like, uneasy, one of those people heavily leaning on a cane, not someone who transitions weight substantially from one leg to the other as they kinda move back and forth.
The thing about it is though, Jared, I've had that same app since I've had the phone,
Is that the
and
first time?
this is the first time it's ever said that.
Well, maybe you ought
So
to
I
listen to it.
well, that's what I'm saying. I don't I it, obviously it gets your attention when it sends up this yellow alert, and it's when I'm in bed.
I mean,
And I
I've thought about it, and I try not to be like the kid or child that's like, "Mom, Dad, be careful, like, you're getting old," but I've thought about it, and as you go out to see Grandma Sawyer, it's like, "Man, you're in the middle of fucking nowhere." It's like, you'd lucky if you got service with your phone on you. You don't have your phone on you, and it's inside or something, that could be a real problem, and it's like, you slip and fall or something bad happens out in the yard out there, how long are you laying there till grandma decides to pick up the phone and call one of us?
yeah, I mean, I always carry my phone. That's the best I could do. I always take it. But yeah, when I got struck by that tree that I cut,
Yeah, that was bad.
but Rick, that was when Rick was still alive, and I had to call Rick because I couldn't get up. I mean, I ended up getting up by myself, but I was so stunned
Right.
that I said, Rick, I'm gonna need you to come up here for a minute. And he came up in a couple minutes. I didn't act like it was an emergency, and it wasn't. But yeah, he came up in
Well,
the
I don't know
pasture
that he
where I
could have helped
was.
you very much anyways, but
He carried the saw to the truck because I
I
wasn't
just
gonna.
I just mean the difference in your guys' size. I mean,
No, I know.
what was
But
he at the time? Because that was when he was, somewhat sickly, wasn't it?
if he was 140, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he wasn't doing well. But
So
yeah, and I
best
mean,
case, he was 50% of your weight.
the weirdest thing about it is that I was stunned, right, when that happened. I mean, I never been hit that hard in my life.
Well, I saw the bruise, and I think anybody would have been fucking stunned regardless of size and age.
But you should have seen him. And he didn't even see the bruise. I mean, cuz he wasn't used to seeing me like that. Like I was just like stunned. I was still like trying to get a hold of shit.
Yeah.
And and I mean, he didn't panic, but he kind of almost did, because he's not used to seeing me like that, and
Well,
I'm not
and I
used to being like that.
yeah, I
But
mean, that's
holy
gotta be
shit!
scary. I mean, obviously, you've always been his big brother, but then on top of that, it's like, okay, but if something starts to go sideways, you start to pass out, or this is a really like, I've gotta imagine panic sets in for him. What the fuck do I do? It's like we're forever away from a hospital. We might not have cell service, and you're way too large for me to move you. So, like, I've
Well,
gotta imagine there was panic in him.
there was we had started a brush pile, and he had helped me probably 2 or 3 weeks before that, and I had him grab a stick out of there, and I peeled off some pieces off that stick, and it was big enough to help me walk. And I just used it to steady myself. I didn't really bear any weight on it because I was still stunned when I got home. After driving home, I was still like I don't know how to describe it other than stunned. I wasn't right. Everything didn't feel like it was balanced inside, you know.
Well, When's the last time you had an altercation like that, though? I mean,
Oh, dude, I don't
you
know.
know what I mean? Like,
Well,
you
I
haven't
never
been
had.
tackled since you were in high school football, but you probably haven't even gotten to, like, a very physical altercation in the past 30 years. So it's
No,
like
and
getting
no.
hit by that tree has to be a total shock to the body.
Well, I've been in car wrecks, and I never been hit like that. Yeah, if that had hit me in the head, it'd have killed me. Or even if it would have hit me up in the back. I mean, it could have killed me. But luckily, it hit me right below the fake hip. That's
It looked
another amazing
nasty.
thing. Oh man, it felt nasty too. Oh, and did I get my ass chewed when I got home?
Oh, I bet. Mm.
There was bark in my skin. There was like tree bark embedded in my skin under my pants. Yeah.
So you know it was a good one.
Well, I was yeah, that was I I had a I got a stern talking to when I got home. But anyway, I was just I don't know why how we got off on that, but it's cold and it's just like I get, obviously I get cold easier than I used to, and it's kind of I think it can't be helped as you get older. I mean, everybody's walked into houses that I keep calling people old people. Shit, man, my next birthday I'll be 70. And it's
Yeah.
like I'm old people. But you know what I mean? It's like I look at people, I don't feel that old. And it's like
Right.
I don't, you know. And I mean, all the time people at the hospital, it's like, no, your birthday. And I go 9/14/55. It's like because they don't believe I'm as old as I am. And
Well, yeah. I mean,
I'll
but I think a lot of our perception of age is how sedentary someone is because of their lack of ability to do things. And because you're up and running around and running errands, it's like, yeah, you're retirement age, but you're not like an old person.
well, you know how you go when you go to the pharmacy and if you have to wait, you'll see people that come in and fill their prescriptions in person, right?
Yeah.
Or even when they're picking them up, they have to give their birth date, right?
Yep.
And there'll be somebody who'll give their birth date, and I go, that son of a bitch is younger than me. It's like, Jesus God, I don't think I'm that old. And
Well,
it's
that
like I'm
was
like 2 years older than the dude.
when I used to work security with Joe at the bar, and it was like we were working there one night, and somebody came up, and they're like, if it says 19 instead of 20, you don't even have to check the year to know that they're over 21. And I was like, that's disgusting. I don't. If you were born at any point in the 1900, you're 21 now. And I was like, oh, that is terrible. That made me feel really old. Let's pretend we didn't hear that.
That's funny. Well,
Oh, it's true.
we haven't talked. Have we talked since Christmas?
I don't think
Have we done
so.
a podcast? I don't
I
remember.
think we did right before, and then I don't think we did
But
after.
we had a nice Christmas, and that was fun and
We
good.
actually
And
got to celebrate
yeah,
it.
everybody together. Yes, yes,
Because
yeah.
last
Because
year everyone was sick.
yep, and Joe missed Thanksgiving this year.
Yep.
Yeah, but yep, everybody made it, and we had a good time. And then we have some first of the year birthdays. So we had one birthday party for Jackson already. There's another one for um,
Montana.
Montana, and they're combining hers and Dallas's birthday, and that's coming up. So I don't know. It's always fun. I have a good time. I think it makes me feel good that everybody enjoys spending time together. That's a good thing. You know, that's that's what family is to me, and you can just tell everybody has a good time, and even the kids. And I mean, I know kids can be shitty. It's their job to to show their ass once in a while, and that happens.
Literally.
Well, but you know what? They do great. I'm amazed at the overall. You know, like if you were giving a pro football focus grade on the kids' behavior, it'd be a very high grade. And I'm talking about in general as a group. You know, it'd be really good. And that's just always good to see. Good food, relaxing. I got to tell you, I'm as much as I love football, and I really do love football, and it's great that the Lions are really good. 15 wins in a regular season, that's amazing. And, Michigan kind of came back, even won their bowl game against Alabama, which was fun. And, and beat Ohio State. Honestly, Jared, and I'm reluctant to say this, I'm starting to get burned out a little bit. I mean, there's been so much football on, and a lot of good football too. We've got the national championship game coming up. What is that? Monday or Tuesday? The 20th, whatever day that is.
Yeah.
Ohio State and Notre Dame, which I know you're big fans of both.
Fucking huge. Huge fans. This is the best national championship game there ever could have been.
Is there any way for both teams to forfeit?
Yeah, I mean, I would settle for Ryan Day somehow getting embarrassed and Notre Dame getting the shit kicked out of him. If I could get those two, I'm okay with Ohio State.
What if his pants fell down on the sidelines or something?
Yeah. Yeah. Or Urban Meyer just walked up and pimp slapped him like, "What the fuck you doing with my team?" Like, just, I like, I almost feel bad about it because Ryan Day has obviously never done anything to me, but there's just something about that guy that I do not like him, and I like all the way to his core. I do not like him. He seems like a whiny little bitch to me, and I can't stand it. And he also has the most talented underperforming roster I've ever seen. And I like to me this year, they were gifted a national championship, and they've almost thrown it away.
Well, they
I mean,
almost
they're
pushed it away in
so
the regular
talented, they
season.
should have just
Yeah.
been able to walk through and be done with it. But I think because of his stubbornness, they've almost messed up a few times.
Well, I mean, I'm a lot more defined in the way I don't like him. I mean, I never liked Michael Jordan, but he's the greatest basketball player I ever saw play. I'll admit, I'll concede that. I hang on to Bill Russell, who was great, but the era was different for sure. And even though I don't like Michael Jordan, I'll say I don't like LeBron, and LeBron's never done anything to me. But he is a tremendous and one of the greatest. I don't believe he's the greatest, but he is a very good. He's a great basketball player. All right. Ryan Day won't give Michigan credit for anything, and that I just find it's like grow the fuck up. That
But
bothers
that
me.
to me is part of, like, being the soft, whiny bitch about it. It's
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. But I
it's
mean,
not only do you complain about things and, not live up to what you're supposed to, but then it's like when your foe gets the best of you, you don't take it on the chin, suck it up, and prepare for next year. You you sit there and complain or make an excuse or, try and alter something, and it's like, just let it go, man. I mean, he was even a proponent in the whole sign stealing thing, and
oh
then they
yeah,
found out Ohio State was paying for the same shit, and it's like that's why it
yeah.
all disappeared, if anyone wonders, is because they found out there were so many schools involved, but it's like, he just wants to make everyone else look guilty, and it's like, dude, Ohio State's been guilty as shit forever over the years and been caught doing it, and I've never heard a Michigan fan make an excuse for that, like, "Oh, well, we'd have better players if we paid them or bought him a cheeseburger," or whatever the case is, but he's willing to make any excuse to not give credit like you were saying, and I really don't like him. But I will say this: Ohio State's been a sound program forever.
Yeah,
Their
great.
uniforms are badass.
They are.
Their fans, although I don't agree with them, they're a badass fan base. And they have every year some of the best receivers, if not all of the best receivers in the country, and are so damn talented. It's like they
Well, you
they
look
should be able to walk all over everybody this year. But again, if Ryan Day's leading you, well, then it's a fucking crapshoot.
well, I think before the Michigan game this year, one of the local radio hosts said, and he's a guy who covers Michigan. He actually broadcasts their games on radio, and he's been around the program for years. And he says, "Well, I don't know if Ryan Day's got a Michigan. I don't know that he doesn't have a Michigan problem." And to me, he was bound and determined he was going to beat us at bully ball. Even with all those thoroughbreds on the outside, thoroughbred running backs too, and a quarterback that everybody wanted. You can like him or not like him, but Will Howard will get drafted. He'll get drafted in the top 3 or 4 rounds, maybe even higher depending on his combine. Because he had great numbers at Kansas State, and he was a highly sought after transfer. He had Judkins and Henderson. Judkins was one of the better backs in the SEC, and he transferred for his senior year, and Henderson's been incredible since he got there. And like you said, all these wideouts, he's got a bunch of guys that are going to get drafted on that defense. At least a couple of DBs are going to go real high. Jack Sawyer's going to go high. That Hawaiian D end, and I can't even say his name. It begins with a T. He'll get drafted in round 2 or 3. He's got a lot of horses, but because Harbaugh just beat him at bully ball, he was bound and determined that's what he was going to do.
Yeah, but again, that's part of the softness. It's like
Exactly.
somebody hurt his feelings and now he's acting immature. And it's like, to me, it was stupid to begin with. But then there's like stubborn to the point of stupidity. So it's you walk in, and like you said, you got all these thoroughbreds on the outside, and you decide to play bully ball, which you're not only are you not built for, but you're trying to do it against the one team that's truly built
That
for
can
it.
do it. Yeah.
And it's like, so then you get in this situation, and it's okay. We got through the first quarter, no luck. Second quarter, no luck. We should make halftime adjustments. Okay, third quarter. It's like maybe we should open up the offense a little bit, coach. And it's like the fact that you can get that far into the game and still not see the slap in the face that you're getting and go, let's do what we're good at. The fact that you have such of that little brother style mentality where you're like, well, he beat me up, so I'm going to beat him up in the same way. It's like you risked your whole season. Somehow it's worked out for you, but you did risk your whole season. And if we're being 100% honest, in any true Michigan, Ohio State fan's heart, if you lost to the opposing school and win the national championship, it's going to have an asterisk next to it because you didn't used to be able to do that. For the longest part of their tradition, you could not lose at the end of the season as Michigan or Ohio State to one another and still be a national champion.
Well, I remember when I was very young, it's always been the last game of the year. If you lost that game, you didn't even go to a bowl game. And if you lost that, then after that, they changed it and started having more bowl games. Because it was like the winner of that game went to the Rose Bowl, the loser went home. And then as they started having more bowl games, if Michigan lost, they'd go to the Bluebonnet Bowl or something, which, again, all things considered, it's just a lesser bowl than the Rose, Orange, and Sugar. And for a long time, the Cotton Bowl was really big too. But it's like, and now the Fiesta Bowl's in there, and the Holiday Bowl's pretty big, and there's some other big bowls. But it's like, for a long time, if you lost that game, you went home. And one year they tied. And Ohio State went to the Rose Bowl because the Big Ten commissioners said they've got a better chance of winning a Rose Bowl game. And Michigan had the same record and tied them head to head, and Michigan stayed home. So a lot of things have changed, but we agree about that. I know that I joke about the Notre Dame thing, and it's like I will, as as much as I don't like Ohio State, and I don't. I'm a Michigan fan, and I don't like Ohio State, but I'm not ignorant about it. I'm not stupid about it. I admit that they're a really, really good team. I mean, they've looked better than any team in this playoff. And I mean, what they did to Oregon was they pantsed them big time. And I mean, Oregon was ranked number 1. They were unbeaten.
But that, I think that shows you about the bullshit strength of schedule when you face a good team.
Yeah, well, that's fair. But it's like they have looked really good. And as much as I don't like them, I'll be rooting for them against Notre Dame because I'm not a Notre Dame fan at all.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State might be my second least favorite team in all of college football. Notre Dame's my least favorite. Like, not only do I want Ohio State to win, I hope they break every offensive record ever set. And I hope the scoreboard can't keep up. They're like, yeah, we were only built for triple digits, not quadruple. Like, I'm not kidding. I hate Notre Dame. I think they're full of shit. I think the independence is full of shit. Opting out of the Michigan contract is full of shit. Not having to split your funding with a conference if you win the national championship and absorbing it all as yourself as a school is bullshit. It's like, and then, you know, you and I have even talked about like the how many people are actually Catholics that go there versus who's on their team. And it's just like everything you do is a facade. It's all bullshit. And then
Well,
we even talk about if they join a conference, who are they going to join the Big Ten? Fuck no. They'll go to the ACC or something where they can get
if they
still a
join a
Power
league,
Five, but they just want it to be a softer league.
yeah, if they join any league, it'll be the ACC because the competition's less, particularly in football.
Which I would love to see that. I think there should be a crossover team. I think that's how we solve this problem. There should be a crossover team from each conference every year. So like Georgia, they get to play in like the WAC or whatever the fuck they have over there now. You know what I mean? Like whatever small easy it's we should just take some of the best schools, throw them into the shittiest conferences, and it's on rotation every year and see how that conference turns out. And if it turns out the best schools are kicking their ass, then maybe we can just rule these people out of the playoff because
Put
Notre
Texas in the Sun Belt.
yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Notre Dame is very talented,
Yeah, they're
and
good.
they've got athletes. But the fact of the matter is, we've talked about before, teams cannibalize themselves in their conference, and it's like the fact that they're able to stay relatively healthy and not be battered and bruised, whether they have an actual injury that removes them from the game or if it's just wear and tear over the season, because they're not guaranteed to play the same quality of opponents, it's not fair at the end of the year.
No, I don't like the independent thing,
And we're not playing 8 games anymore either.
and I think there's a lot of Notre Dame fatigue around the country. We're not the only ones that feel it. And I think it's like, okay, usually like in baseball is a good example. Football can be an example too, especially at the pro level. You go to New York, you're going to get headlines if you're a good player. If you're a coach, you're going to get the shit beat out of you. Because even if you're a good coach, that's a hard place to live. Because people are going to be listening for your farts. But the good side of that is you get a lot of notoriety. And I think Notre Dame's like that. They promote themselves so well, they don't need anybody else to promote them. New York's like that. The Jets, The Jets are a frickin' train wreck. And I mean, the Jets are what the Lions were, okay? Rudderless ownership, you know, very reactionary, not proactive at all, very reactionary. They fired this year the best coach I think they've had in a while, which is Robert Saleh. But they promote themselves like New York's in the news all the time, even if the Giants suck and the Jets suck, which they both do. Excuse me, they get lots of press. Notre Dame gets lots of press when they're mediocre. Because guess what? They'll tell you about all the national championships they've won in
I
the
feel like
past.
that's how the Cowboys are.
Cowboys are a lot like that. They're a PR machine, you know. Excuse me. For a long time, the Cowboys they call them America's team. And I think in large part they were. When I was like in my teens, I think they were. Because their uniforms were cool, especially compared to everybody else's. They had the cheerleaders, which nobody had at the time. The Cowboys were the first to have, skimpy clad cheerleaders. And they were on TV all the time.
That's actually an interesting thing to. They've always been America's team, but like, even though I didn't live in the era, when I look back at highlights and all of this, and the fan base and the grittiness and a city following, to me, the pastime of football, America's team was always the Steelers.
Oh, the Steelers they had their run,
But I
and
mean, those were factory workers supporting as a fan base, and they had nitty gritty players playing tough ass football, and they were good, and it was like the never quit, the terrible towel, like that to me was a. And I've always heard that the Cowboys were America's team, but to me, the Cowboys were always just flashy money. The Steelers were the gritty team that was America's team, and that's just my take. I'm not saying the
Packers.
saying was different, but
The Packers were a lot like that in the '60s.
okay.
Community owned, several world titles. Niners were the same in the '80s with Montana. It's like, they were always going to be good. Even when they got wrecked, like the Lions did this year with injuries, somehow or another you couldn't count them out. If if 16 was able to get his shirt on, they had a chance. And I won't say most of the time, they won 4 titles in the '80s. But yeah, I mean, so I get that. I get what you're saying, and you're right. I mean, Pittsburgh won 4 rings in the '80s, and one of the coolest things about going to a town, even like Cleveland, and I know Cleveland sucks right now, but when you go into the downtown area, and Pittsburgh is like this too, because I've been to both many times, several times. And you go into a little shithole bar, man, there's lion shit all over the place. There is. There's like lion stuff all over, or, brown stuff all over the place in Cleveland, or Steelers stuff all over the place in Pittsburgh. And
It's
I,
cool.
I haven't been to enough of those places in downtown Detroit, to my own shame, that I know that, but I bet that's true about the Lions too.
For sure. Yeah, I mean all the businesses down there have it, but I mean I'm sure all cities have a version of that, but like the industrial cities you're talking about. It's like when you're
Yeah,
talking about Detroit, when you're talking about Pittsburgh, when you've got Cleveland, it's like we're manual labor is the essence that drives the city. It's like
the
it
Midwest,
seems
man.
like those fan bases, they're not as wavering, at
Right,
least in my opinion. So it's like you don't give up on there's no other team. What do you mean? Like
right,
I like
right.
as a Michigander, I'm not allowed to have another favorite team in the NFL. The Lions will always be and it's not that someone ever told me that. That's just kind of the belief I grew up with. It's like whether the
That's your
Lions are good or not, they're my team.
They're your pro football team. That's it. I get it. I've wanted to disavow their existence for many years, and I could never totally do it.
Well, I
I've
hope
always been a
somebody
fan.
makes a shirt, and I hope somebody makes a book and a 30 for 30 for Dan Campbell from 0-16 to 15-2. Because this dude's got a hell of a story, but with the Lions alone.
He really does, and I know you had it in your notes, and it's a good thing to talk about. I mean, they ended up they play the Vikings. Excuse me. They're both 14-2. They play the Vikes at home the last game of the year. I mean, the game was close for into the second half, and then the Lions pulled away. I and you and I were talking about it before we started recording. It's like the Lions showed the world how to beat Sam Darnold.
They did what Ohio State, especially under Urban Meyer, used to do to Michigan. Or I'm sorry, what Indiana used to do to Michigan, and then we'd go play Ohio State. Indiana would show the bubble screens, the spread, whatever you need to do to defeat Michigan's defense and gash them. And then it was like Ohio State came in with the same game plan and would execute it better. And I hated that for years. And I feel like the Lions defense did that to the Vikings. They go, this is what he's good at. This is what he's bad at. We're going to make him do what he's bad at all fucking day. And then when they did it, we saw what happened the next week when they played the Rams.
Well, during the game Monday when the Rams were playing the Vikings, I got this text from Alan. Sam Darnold is a gigantic pussy, major fraud this season. And this was my response. He really is a pud. I think most of us suspected it. He is, in quotes, what we thought he was. The Lions really exposed it. The Rams copied it. All credit to Kevin O'Connell, that's the Vikings coach, for covering that up for most of the year, which he did. I mean, they were 14-3. That's amazing. Now they did a one and done in the playoffs, and that's unfortunate for them. But again, that's coaching. I mean, because that guy there was a lot of people questioned when they even signed him because they wanted a bridge, and it turns out it was a good thing because J.J. McCarthy was out for the year with a knee injury before he ever played in the regular season.
So this is we know that they smothered him, right? I mean, that was
Yeah, they confused
it was the
him, all
timing
that.
to Sam Darnold was the huge focus for the Lions. And these are the stats. I just wanted to throw them out there. I'm not trying to cut you off. So he
No, no,
was
no, that's
pressured
fine.
24 times. 11 of those times, it was under 2.5 seconds. And they got 9 sacks. And
I
it's
didn't
like,
know they had 9 sacks.
yeah, they just collapsed him. I mean, that's what Google's telling me right now.
Yeah, I didn't know they had 9 sacks, but I knew they pressured him, and I knew they hit him, and I knew you could see him throwing off his back foot. He had happy feet that whole second half because that's the one thing that Campbell's teams are going to do, and the Ravens did it, and Belichick preached it when he was coaching defense.
Yeah, it
Like
says
even if the guy catches the ball, hit him legally, but hit him. Let him know that you're there. And man, they did that to Darnold all day. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying when I looked it up on Google and it's got it on NFL.com that it talks about Jared Verse and causing a fumble, all this stuff, but then it says the Ram defense smothers the Vikings with 9 sacks and performance in wild card round win.
Oh,
That's
I thought
where
you
that.
were saying the Lions sacked him 9
No,
times.
no, no.
Oh, okay.
The
Okay.
Rams. And
Okay.
they had
Gotcha.
24 pressures with 11 of them being in under 2.5 seconds. That's what I just meant, that the Rams
Oh, yeah.
took the blueprint straight from the Lions, and they're like, this is how we're going to do it, but we're going to amplify it because obviously they got to see the Lions have success, so they just made it a little bit better. But I just thought that was really cool because there's a lot of quarterbacks that pressure is a weird stat because
Right.
it's did you change the throw or because like
Yeah.
if you're telling me you pressured Tom Brady, I'm like that guy does not care if the pocket collapses. I'm sorry, he does like he
Jared
doesn't
Goff
want to do it
doesn't.
early, but exactly. And Jared Goff, to his credit, is one of the best. I 100% am gonna throw this ball like you're not gonna hit me, even if it looks like you're gonna kill me. And that is some ballsy football play. But then there's other quarterbacks who are mobile and get out of the pocket, you know, not current, but former Aaron Rodgers-esque or currently like a Patrick Mahomes where they can roll out and kind of trot. And even though they've been pressured, the stat doesn't really affect them. But when the stat does affect you like a Sam Darnold, even though not all those plays ended up in a sack, it's like they just showed that you can take this one aspect and ruin his game.
Well, we're gonna see because they play the Commanders this week, and Jaden Daniels won the Heisman Trophy last year. He's likely gonna, even though Brock Bowers should win it, I think Jaden Daniels will win it because he's had a hell of a year. I mean, I I want to say the Commanders had 4 wins last year and a rookie quarterback, and they've got 11. I mean, well, they got a playoff win now, so they got 12. I mean, and he's elusive. He can throw. We'll see. I mean,
Seems like he's clutch too, because the
yeah,
stat I just read was the last 5 games they've won in the final possession.
he doesn't get flustered. So we'll see. I mean, Glenn's been really good at it and at devising schemes to, mess people up. And I don't think there's any doubt the Lions were a better team than the Vikings. They can say whatever they want. They were a better team than the Packers. They beat them both twice. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, for the Lions, to me, assuming they continue the way they've been all season, you really have to have the worst of both worlds to beat them because they're so well rounded right now. And it's you have to get a break from their defense, even though they're decimated with injuries. Not only can they not pressure you, but you have to hope that they drop an interception because there's gonna be a chance at an interception every game. There always is. They're great at baiting them out. And so it's like you're gonna have to hope they drop a big one and don't capitalize on a turnover. And you're gonna have to hope the offense never gets started because once they're started, they don't stall out. So it's like they've had games where they never really got going, but you're gonna have to have the offense not get going and the defense drop something big or not get fumbles going their way or something because they're so well rounded and it's maybe it's happened before and I'm just kind of in awe because it's the Lions, but I don't remember seeing a team that was uh, such a force causing turnovers and defending the red zone on defense, yet had a superior prolific offense. I mean,
well, we'll
that's what's
see.
so weird to me about it is
We'll
their offense can put 40 on you, but their defense, they'll let you walk down the field, but then kick a field goal.
we'll see. I mean, I the playoffs always make me nervous, and like I said, this is still new territory for me and the Lions. I don't know how to act. I want to be confident, but I don't want to be overconfident, and I'm just not used to it. Even though we were good last year and we had started to be good the year before, I'm still not used to it. I mean, we were bad for so long. It's like those scars are deep.
Well,
You
you
know,
had you had mentioned something about like an NFL grade earlier, if you're giving something an NFL grade. And one thing before we moved on with topics that I wanted to bring up was how well has the grade of drafting Jameer Gibbs aged?
amazing. And
Because a lot of people gave drafting him a D grade for the
oh, I
draft.
know.
And it's like that guy is one of the most dynamic football players I've ever seen.
Well, you don't draft a running back that high, and I was told and I'm not going to divulge my source because I want to keep him. But he has inside information, so I don't get this information a day before, an hour before, but I get it, you know, minutes before, like when the Lions draft. And probably 10 minutes before the Lions that year, they picked sixth. They were going to pick sixth. And he texted me and he said, if they don't make a trade, they're taking Gibbs at six. And I thought, holy shit, they're taking a running back that high. Well, that's exactly what happened. They made a trade. They got extra picks. They ended up getting Sam Laporta with one of those picks that they got. But they traded down to 12, and they took Gibbs at 12. And when I text, Jacob was out in Vegas with his buddies. And when I text him, and this is still like 2 minutes before it goes on TV, because they're watching the draft in the hotel room, the Sarnakis and some of his buddies. And I text him, I go, Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. And it's like, and they were all, I think they said I was nuts. And then when it happened, they bitched. Well, I didn't bitch. Now, I will say, Alan did. I didn't really understand it, but I didn't bitch. I was really starting to have faith in our ability to scout talent. And I'm just totally sold on that now. So I don't question them
I always
much.
feel like running backs have kind of gotten screwed in the draft.
They've been devalued, that's for sure.
Well, and I understand the wear and tear and the miles and all that, but I mean, it. I don't have the number in front of me, so this could just be something that I imagine, and it's not a genuine statistic. But to me, when there's a really, really good college running back or a great college running back, barring injury, they're good in the NFL. And a lot of times, even after injury, they're good in the NFL. Receivers seem like way more of a coin toss to me. And that you might have the most dominant college receiver and they don't do shit in the NFL. And it's seems like, at least in my mind, it seems like a total coin toss. So I'm not saying I was jumping up and down about Gibbs, but the fact that we didn't draft another receiver, I was like, fuck yeah, I'm in. Because the
I just
Lions forever seem to pick a bad receiver early round.
I'm just receivers. A lot of them turn into divas, and I hate that. The one thing that I'm convinced about the Lions, and I love this about them, and I think it has to do with everybody from. Bye, hon. Be careful. Your mom's going to watch the boys or pick up the boys and then watch them. But anyway, the one thing that they do that I'm convinced that they do, and it goes from Sheila Ford Hamp to Spielman to Brad Holmes to Campbell to all of their scouts. They want their kind of guy. Ability's great, but they want, the Red Wings used to call it when they were having all their good teams, they want grown-ups in the room. They want guys who would take care of their business. They don't have a lot of off-field shit going on. They're not going to be locker room lawyers and malcontents. And, the Lions have let people go. They the receiver from last year, Josh, and I can't think of his name. But anyway, he went to Denver and then he got released. Because the Lions weren't going to pay him what he could get. Well, they liked him. And Jared Goff particularly liked him. He played with him in LA. But the money got in the way, and I don't know that he turned into a diva, but I know that they don't like guys that are like, there are guys, if you named 10 college football players that I know, I could tell you right now, they'll never be a Lion. Not as long as this regime's here. Like Will Johnson from Michigan, great cornerback. I don't think he'll ever be a Lion. Because Will Johnson, in my opinion, skipped out on his whole last year because he was worried about being a pro.
Hmm.
And again, that's his business. He has every right to that. All I'm saying is that I think they look at that. They want team guys. When he talks about grit, he means it. You got to live, eat, sleep, breathe football.
Well,
Those
that's
are the.
why I think Gibbs was such a high pick for them.
Well,
He
yeah,
doesn't run
I
his
do too.
mouth.
I
He's
do
very
too.
mature, but like if you go back, he's been pretty quiet about it. But if you go back, it's like he was growing up through the foster system and didn't know where he's going to be sleeping and all this stuff and made it work, never had trouble in school and eventually got adopted and then, found his way to Georgia Tech, I think it was, and then
Yep.
eventually Alabama. And it's like, but his work ethic and his not bitching and complaining about the grind that it is, but just wanting to be there and that I don't know, there's like a smile about you where you can tell this is genuine, you like it. He's got all those characteristics, and I think that's why even before they knew exactly what he'd be in the NFL, they were so happy to draft him because it's like this guy mentally is exactly what we're looking for. And if he can give us the goods on top of that, this is incredible. And so far it has been.
I agree with you. I just think they want their kind of player, you know. Um, and their kind of player obviously is talented, but that isn't the only thing they're looking at. That's why I love Jack Campbell so much. I love that pick. Um, because I know from watching that guy at Iowa, from listening to Kurt Ferentz talk about him, and I don't know Jack Campbell, but I trust what Kurt Ferentz says, and he said he was that kind of guy. Plus, when Campbell went to the combine, he blew it up. For linebackers, he was doing insane things, on the skills and agility tests, and on all the measurables. And he's just that kind of guy. So I mean, I trust them in their judgment. I have questions still. I mean, they draft these developmental projects that Broderick Martin. We've been waiting on him for 2 years now, and he hadn't done jack shit. He's dressed for very few games. This Giovanni Manu, all year long, he's been a healthy scratch. Everybody says he's a physical specimen and he was a football player out of Canada that the Lions traded up to get. And so I mean, am I scratching my head over that? Yeah, but I'm not questioning them because they've been right too many times. Um, I just recently, I mean, I have watched this show. It's a sci-fi production show. It's called Resident Alien. And it's about an alien that is disguised as a human, and he's in this small town in Colorado. And obviously, there's an ensemble cast. There's a lot of cool characters and quirky characters in the show, including him. And do you remember the movie A Knight's Tale
Yes.
with Heath Ledger?
Yes.
Okay, remember his two like servants that followed him around and dressed him and all that?
Yes.
Okay, not the chubby one, the redheaded guy with the big eyes. Do you remember that guy? He was the guy who wanted to eat all the time. Do you remember
Yeah,
him from that
yeah, because
movie?
the girl goes, I'd rather be a silly girl with a flower than a silly boy with a horse and a stick.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And
Okay.
yeah.
In
Yes.
real life, his name is Alan Tudyk. Tudyk. And I always thought he was British because any role I've seen him in, he had a British accent, including this one a little bit. But he was born in El Paso, Texas,
Mhm.
and he was raised in Plano, just outside of Dallas. Anyway, I've been watching this show. Netflix just has all the episodes now, and I just happened to see it. and I had seen it, a few episodes of it, and it caught my interest because he's posing as a doctor in this small town in Colorado, but yet he doesn't know manners, and he doesn't
And
like
he's always played good awkward characters.
he yes, and awkward's the right word. Like he goes to this cafe and he loves to eat. He loves to eat human food. He eats all the time. But he goes to this cafe and he always gets like a piece of pie and a bowl of chowder. And he'll cut off a piece of the pie and dunk it in the chowder
Oh,
and eat it.
oh my
you know,
god.
the
It doesn't
mayor
sound good on its own, but together, that's just
the ma-
terrible.
the mayor is a real quirky character, and his wife. There's a bartender who's a retired former Olympic skier who now is a bartender, and she's kind of like the town slut. Um, there's a nurse in his office who's Native American, and she's like she's got a big butt, but she's unusually attractive for some reason. And her name is Asta.
Unusually?
Yeah, for being built like she is, to me, she's somewhat attractive. I mean, I think really attractive. You know, um, because she's kind of pear shaped. She's got a big bottom and a little top. but but the show is it's really entertaining, and you said awkward. That's the best way to describe it, and there's like 1 out of 1 million people can see through his disguise as a human, and the one of the people in this town is like a 10-year-old boy who sees an alien every time he sees him.
Oh my god.
He sees an alien in a lab coat.
Like, what the fuck? You guys seeing this? You can't say anything as a
Oh,
little kid either.
dude.
They'll just
I
think you're
mean,
crazy.
I'm not kidding you. You have to check it out. Check out
I'm
at least.
gonna. I'm probably gonna check it out right after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's called Resident Alien. It's got a great cast. There's a sheriff, a local sheriff, and he's a black guy who used to live in Washington D.C. When he introduces himself, he goes, "You can call me Big Black."
That's
and he's
awesome.
and he's fucking hilarious. There's just a lot of great characters. Um and I don't know, we've made it through. Your mom likes it too. We've made it through almost 2 seasons of it. And I think that's all they have on Netflix. But it's coming back for another year. I mean, it's gonna. I think this year it's gonna be on USA. But I just think that show is funny as hell. I mean, I would just. I don't know how many people have seen it, but if you haven't seen it and you like quirky comedies, check it out because it really is unusual. It is a very quirky comedy. And there's some drama in there too, but it's a fun show to
I mean,
watch.
it sounds great.
Well, like I said, everybody should check it out. It's called Resident Alien, and right now they have at least 2 seasons on Netflix. Now, you said you wanted to talk about a movie.
Oh yeah, Melissa and I recently watched two movies. And the first one's called Escape Room, and
Okay.
the second one is the sequel to Escape Room, and it's called Escape Room Tournament of Champions.
Okay.
And I love escape rooms. I love puzzles, all kinds of stuff like that. But what I thought was cool about this particular movie is like everyone who's playing in the game is selected for a reason, and it's one of those. This is an elite society thing where they capture people and then they put them in deadly escape rooms. And um,
Okay.
so the like in this, I mean, the whole point of it being escape room is like I mean, that's the premise of the movie. So anything I say isn't really giving anything away because it just is the escape room is what the movie's about. But in this scenario, everyone who was selected was a lone survivor of some sort of tragedy, whether they were the only passenger who survived a plane crash or, it doesn't any accident that could have happened. They found all these individuals, and because they were considered lucky to be the lone survivors, they wondered if luck had anything to do with getting through these horrific escape
Okay.
rooms. And so all the people there, the 6 people selected, are all lone survivors of their own tragedy. Um, and again, this escape room, it's like they've got hidden doors, they've got hidden switches, things aren't what they seem to be. There's different tasks, but the environment's changing. So, you might be borderline freezing to death, or acid rain might be coming down soon, or like in the first room they're in, the ceiling turns on and it's a giant. They're trapped in a giant oven, and so they're gonna cook alive if they don't get out. But and I mean, like, things shift and do all kinds of weird stuff, and they have to find the hidden way to get out of the room. And there's so many rooms that they have to get through. And the reason I find this particular movie to be so much better than others, it still captures the essence of escape rooms well, and the puzzle solving, and it still captures the thriller side or horror side of being trapped in one of these deadly escape rooms, but they removed all the gore and gross stuff. So, you don't see someone get hit through the eyeball or splattered into a million pieces. It's like they might get a small cut here or there, or a burn, or something small, but it's nothing horrific. But yet you still know the outcome of what happened. You just don't have to watch it be bloody and gross for no reason.
Where did you
And
watch it?
it's on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
Actually, you know what? No, it's on demand. We watched it on demand. And the second one was on Stars, but we again rented it. We rented the second one through
Okay.
Amazon Prime, but it is available on Stars. And the first one, it was on demand. We have Spectrum as our service. I don't know what the exact. I think it was an HBO channel, but
Okay.
um, they're available. If you have premium subscriptions to any of your streaming
Oh, okay.
services, a lot of times they're there. Otherwise, if you search escape room on your demand service, I know they show them regularly. Um, and then the second one, when we were unable to find it on demand, we went to Amazon Prime, and I believe it was like a $3 rental.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't anything horrible, but they were.
Well,
I mean, they were just really good. It again, it's the panic, the time, and that's kind of the cool thing about the lethal aspect of the escape room, is that the time crunch is now very important, because if you have ever played an escape room, if you're one that has you scheduled to go through certain parts of the room, they will push you along whether you get the answer right or wrong. But if you're just in one giant room, you either succeed in getting out in your time or you don't. But in this one, not succeeding is life and death. So it's
well,
really cool.
we've done a couple escape rooms with you guys.
Have you?
Yeah, yeah. We did one up by where you guys lived up by Utica, and then uh, did you do
We
the
gotta do one soon.
did you do the one in Flat Rock with us, or was that Joe?
That must have been Joe.
We've done a couple with you guys. I
Cause
know we
I
did.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're interesting. You're way into it more than me, but I had fun doing them, and your mom loved it. I don't think she solved anything, but she liked it.
I just find them to be a hilarious dynamic, because especially with Melissa and I, well, I'm the problem solver out of the two of us for sure. But like, I try not to be confrontational because I want her to learn. So I don't want to make it seem like aggressive and panicky, and then she's not having a good time. I want her to get better at it so that we can have a lot more fun actually succeeding. And so there'll be times where I like recommend something and she just kind of blows me off because she's trying to do her own thing and we don't do it. And then the escape room person will come over the intercom and essentially say that I was right 10 minutes ago and we've been wasting our time. And I'll start giggling. And I remember the last escape room Melissa and I did, we did it just the two of us. And probably, I mean, I guess it's a flaw. If it's a flaw, it's my biggest flaw in an escape room. I will take what you're saying at face value, and that is just what it is. And I am moving forward from there. I don't have time to double check your work. And so in this case, Melissa had to read a paragraph, and then it's essentially like a kid's toy where it's got like 6 racks on it or rows that go across, and there's a bunch of cubes that spin on it, and you line up the shapes. But at the end, if each shape was worth a numerical value, you add all the numbers together and you get your digits on the side, then you get a total number, and that helps you with a combination or something, right? And she had read the opening line of that paragraph wrong.
Oh.
And so I never read it. And so we're sitting there and it's like we're out of time. And I'm like, this should be the easiest thing. And so I even solve it without knowing what we're supposed to do. And I go, Melissa, this is what it needs to be. I just this has to be it. She's like, no, we gotta do this, this, and this. And so I'm watching her, and then the guy actually said something about me picking up the paper and reading it. And so I went over and picked up the paragraph and read it. And it was like we had to take something, but if it was a particular set of 2 symbols in an order, you had to subtract 3 from their numerical value, and she never said that part of it.
Oh, okay.
And so then we keep getting a number that's too high for what we can do in, like, a commentary or anything, and we're sitting here over and over repeating the same mistake, and then I read this paragraph, I'm like, "You gotta be shitting me," and I solved this thing in, like, 3 seconds, and it was just, you know, it's fun because there's all these hidden things, and I'll make this one quick too, but in the same room, to get started, I find these staffs with skulls on them because we were in, like, a pirate ship room. And I see that there's these palm trees, and although they're part of the setting, they don't really seem like they fit unless they're part of the puzzle. Like they would just be too much excess. And then I see that there's holes in them, and I was telling Melissa, I was like, I think these staffs go in there. I think we have to find out how to fit them in there. And then maybe whether there's a light in there that shines on it or whatever, we'll see a letter or a number. And that was the one where we got, like, 15 minutes into the escape room, and you only have an hour, and we had not done anything. We couldn't move, and that guy goes, "Sir, you were right about the sticks." He just said that over the intercom, and I mean, I was dying laughing. It's like, god damn it, of course it was the sticks, but again, you don't wanna be pushy, but if you don't communicate and try every little thought that you have, you're gonna fail,
Right, right.
which is also in those movies. Like, people may not be right with their ideas, but they have to keep trying things. But because the room's deadly, you might trigger something else that accelerates the process or puts you in a worse scenario. So, again, if you like those kind of movies,
No, they
I
sound
would
good.
highly recommend them. They were cool, and not having the gore was pretty good. But I think that about wraps up our time for today. I am good to head out if you are. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I'm good, man.
Sounds good. Well, to our audience out there, all of our listeners, we appreciate you sticking with us this far, and hopefully we haven't bored you too much. But if you have any comments or questions or a topic you'd like us to cover, please let us know. But on that note, be safe, be smart, make good choices, and peace out. Love you, Dad.
Love you too, buddy.
Bye bye.
Bye.